Sir.
The New York Times, I wanted to ask you about the latest economic news from this morning, with inflation now being under 3%, the lowest rate since mid-2021. What is your sort of reaction to that news?
Well, I think the crowd reaction says it all. Look, when they say that inflation is down, they mean from a baseline where groceries are already 30% more expensive than they were when Donald Trump was president. And they're not saying it's coming down, they're just saying it's not going up as fast as it was 3 years ago. That is not a reputation or a record to brag on, that's a record to be ashamed of. Why did it take them so long to get inflation to where it is, and why are prices so high? It's because Kamala Harris failed to do her job.
Gotta freaking love JD Vance. He just put that New York Times reporter in his freaking place. I hate the mainstream media. I thought, by the way, that this would be a good opening for the broadcast, because JD Vance just says it like it is. He says, look, dude, you can't be like acting like this is a good thing that, you know, it's under 3% inflation and da-da-da-da. Look at your record ever since Donald Trump got out of office. Hey, food and retail prices, everything is pretty much still up 30%. Therefore, it is definitely not something to brag about. Isn't it just absurd how crazy the mainstream media is and how much they lie to your freaking face? If we can start showing this to people all in the United States of America, they're going to start falling off of Kamala Harris's ticket. By the way, if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that sub button and make sure you are still subscribed. As you know, YouTube loves to remove people, so check your subscription. And by the way, give mainstream media the big fat friendly middle finger and let them know that you're here on the Lisa Haven channel getting the real news. But with that, Joe Biden actually also wants to pretend like there is no problem regarding inflation. In fact, he yelled at reporters. Take a listen to this.
Has the U.S. beat inflation, Mr. President?
Yes. I told you we're going to have a soft landing. We're going to have a soft landing. My policies are working. Start writing that way, okay? Start writing that way, okay?
Yes. We beat inflation. He yells at the reporter. Start writing that way, okay? In other words, stop telling the people the truth about the U.S. economy and start telling them that we made everything better. The problem is, Joe Biden, is that the American public isn't falling for your junk anymore. They are on to you, because stuff like this is actually happening. Take a look at this. Food has never been so expensive. About 1/4 of renters had to skip meals in the last year to stay current on their bills. This is the cost of living crisis. And I want you to look at the bottom there, 2018, 2019, 2020, about right here that I've just highlighted. That's when Joe Biden came, right into office there. And what happened right around that time? Bang! A massive spike, unlike we have ever seen before. And you know what's crazy? The White House is in a straight up panic right now. Karine Jean-Pierre, as I'm going to show you in a moment, has kind of lost her way. Joe Biden is literally telling reporters to report fake news about the economy and tell everybody everything's fine. And Kamala Harris, seeing that she's running against herself on her own ticket and not an elected candidate, but rather a selected candidate, is now trying to, redefine herself and kind of put a divide between her and Joe Biden. I mean, you really can't make this stuff up. Take a look. And this is on their own news network, Axios. Behind the curtain, the Harris plan to redefine herself. And here's what it says. Harris won't say it this bluntly in public, but her advisors do so privately. She wants to break with Biden on issues on which he is unpopular. First up, rising prices. This is part of a highly choreographed effort to redefine herself. In some cases, redefine herself as a different kind of Democrat. On Friday in Raleigh, she'll outline plans to lower cost of healthcare, housing, and food for the middle-class consumers, and tell how she'll take on corporate price gouging, which, by the way, I'm going to get into in a little bit later. But Harris was jazzed by a Financial Times poll this week showing her more trusted than former President Trump on the economy. Now she wants to be non-Biden on inflation, arguably the biggest domestic topic of this campaign, by proposing clear, more urgent solutions. The bigger picture, Harris doesn't want to be completely defined by the Biden-Harris record. Advisors tell us, and she needs some distance. 80% of U.S. adults in Gallup polls say they're dissatisfied with the country's direction. Well, no, Sherlock. People can't afford food on the table, rent. People can't even get, our kids can't even get into housing. People can't rent cars. It's bad. It's really bad. So she's going to divide herself and redefine herself from her own freaking administration. We all know Joe Biden's gone. So who's been the one kind of pulling the strings? That would be Kamala. And what's happening as a result? We're in a mess. We're in a freaking economic mess. But you know what's interesting is the fact that Peter Doocy confronted Karine Jean-Pierre about this very issue. And Karine Jean-Pierre, I want you to really listen to what she says, because she blatantly says this is one administration and both Biden and Harris are both at fault for the economy. But take a listen to this.
When did you guys learn that Vice President Harris wants to distance herself from Bidenomics?
Why do you think that?
Axios is now reporting that she is hoping to distance herself from President Biden's unpopularity on the economy. Can you blame her?
Do you know this is the Biden-Harris administration? Are you aware that this is the Biden-Harris administration? And she is indeed the vice president.
But if the president's policies on the economy were working, or if they were popular, wouldn't he still be the candidate?
You literally just had the chair of the CEA here who laid out a pretty robust point by point about the economy and what's has happened under the Biden-Harris administration. And I thought it was pretty convincing.
But would you admit, at least, that if Bidenomics was more popular, President Biden would still be the candidate?
I'm not going to get into polling. What I will tell you is Bidenomics has been something that both the president and the vice president has worked on. You guys have called it Bidenomics.
She lost it. Worst press secretary of all time. I'm sorry, just saying. But basically, she answers Peter Doocy very clearly. It's both of their administrations. I don't know why she's trying to separate herself. You do know, Peter Doocy, that this is the Biden-Harris administration. In other words, this little chica named Kamala Harris is just as guilty as Joe Biden when it comes to the election. Now, her twist is the economy is fine, as she goes on to explain. But we all know that it's not. And that's why she's not even popular in such a stance. And you know what? Kamala Harris is refusing to take even any interviews right now. In fact, her own network lambasted her for it. Take a listen.
Would it kill you guys to have a press conference? Why hasn't she had a press conference?
Listen, the vice president and Governor Walz have been busy crisscrossing this country since the launch of this campaign and adding Governor Walz to the ticket. You saw the ways in which they went across the battleground states last week, generating rallies of thousands, 10,000 here, 15,000 there. But
Michael, you know, a campaign rally is not a press
conference.
conference.
It's going to be inclusive.
Do you mind if I cut in? I mean, you know, a campaign rally is not a press conference. Why hasn't she had a press conference? She's the vice president. She can handle the questions. Why not do it?
We absolutely are going to do it. You hear her take questions as she's out on the stump. And she said last week, we're going to be having a sit-down interview here before the end of the month.
She won't do a press conference. Forget about it. Can you please, says CNN, can you please? And they respond with, well, in the next couple of months, we fully intend to do that. Yeah, okay. I'm sure they will. They're going to have to at some point in time. But the girl is a train wreck. Speaking of train wreck, just as a reminder for yesterday's report, I want to bring this back up because I think it's great in light of what we're talking about here. Axios, Harris campaign Google ads rewrite news headlines. And if you look at this picture here, you can see all the yellow. It says paid for by Harris for president, paid for by Harris for president. And she's like posting all these lines about how good the economy is. Inflation is down. Tim Walz, you know, he's a good guy when it comes to his military service record. She has to paying people to to do that. Even left-wing media groups are paying people. Here's the blaze. Left-wing groups are paying social media influencers up to $10K per video and more to push their liberal propaganda. Remember, these are two communists running on a Democrat ticket. She has been voted the most liberal candidate, right? Even liberal and lefter than Bernie Sanders. This is why our entire economy is already in a wreck. I think she's kind of had her grubby little fingers in that. And of course, who even knows who's really pulling the strings right now anyway. But now she's starting to come out. I guess her policies are starting to leak out. We already know her policies. You know, they're part of the Biden-Harris administration. She's acting like it's different because everybody doesn't like what's going on with Joe Biden right now, right? But she's pretending to separate it. And here's one of the things that is probably one of the most communist things that she is pushing right now. Harris will back federal ban on price gouging, campaign says. The VP is leaning into an effort to partly blame big companies for inflation. God forbid she blames herself, as progressives have pushed her to embrace that argument, because progressives know that the reason that things are higher is not because of these companies price gouging or whatever, but because it's the massive spending by the United States government. All this money that we're crapping over to Ukraine, all this money that we're giving to illegal immigrants, handing out free stuff left and right. These schools, we're going to pay off your college loan, even though, everybody else paid for their own kind of stuff. It's this reckless spending in our United States government that is causing the problem. But she has to lay the blame somewhere. And by the way, just ask the old Soviets how that actually went for them, where you're going to put price gouging on food. And there's rumors right now that she's going to say, you can only charge so much for that peanut butter. You can only charge so much for that piece of bread. And that always, 100% of the time, has ended up in massive lines for food, a black market for food, by the way, a lot of freaking poor people and people not getting the food that they need. This is communist. That's what it is. And it totally ends in a really bad place. Well, it sounds all pretty on the surface. I don't have to pay more for this. Companies will go bankrupt in mass, including our food companies. So I can guarantee if they start putting a little price cap on some of this stuff, like they're talking about doing, we're dead as a country. Massive lines, people massively hungry, food lines increase, people are not going to get the food that they need, black market for food. It's insanity. And these are the kinds of policies. And by the way, if she was such a good pick for all these virtue signalers out there, then the economy wouldn't be in shambles right now, would it? And that's the thing. I've been listening to a lot of interviews about why people are voting for Kamala Harris. And it's not because her economy. It's like they just don't care. It's because, she's pro-abortion and pro-women, and she's the color of her skin, she's a BIPOC or whatever. And when these same people are asked about, just name one accomplishment, they don't know, because there really isn't any. And it's terrifying that they're all about this virtue signal over anything else. And what these people don't realize is they're going to lose every ounce of freedom that they have and every right that they have under this woman. Hope that virtue signal works for them, right? It's just insanity what's going on. By the way, with that, I'm going to be putting out a huge report on restrictedrepublic.com. I really hope you get over there about what's going on with the World Health Organization, our communist in chief. Lots going on there that you're going to want to hear about. And right now you can get it for $5 per month. That is a deal in today's society. Use the coupon code Lisa and the number 5 to get that. But I'm going to be putting out some bombshell reports you're not going to want to miss, and you're going to want to be there. If you go there now, subscribe. And by the way, it comes with a 14-day free trial. I started this in light of everything that is going on. And it's a place that we can openly give you all the information there, and there is stuff that is exclusive to that platform. So check it out at restrictedrepublic.com. I really hope to see you there. Anyhow, I love all of you. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.